G'day, we are here to talk about some inspiring walking stories. We've got three lovely staff members from the Curo group with me, and I would like you to just introduce yourselves, please.
Hi, I'm Sally Langerman. I'm from Curo Rosencastle. I'm an executive head.
Hello everyone, my name is Lenore Rix and I am from the curriculum team, Central Curriculum Team or CCMD. I am the project manager for IEB High Schools.
Good morning everybody, my name is Cindy and I head the Curo Sport brand. My title is that of Portfolio Manager.
Welcome. Thank you so much for being here with us today. I wanted you to also just tell all our staff and our parents and everyone watching today, what walks have you done?
In 2017, I walked the full Camino, that's the Camino Francais, the very well-known one. It's 807 kilometers. And then last year in 2023, I walked the Portuguese Camino. And that one, we walked the first week, we walked the coastal route, and then we switched to the central route. And that's 280 kilometers roughly.
Last year I did the Portuguese central route from Porto all the way to Santiago. It was more or less 250 kilometers and we did it in about 9 days.
I only did the 117 kilometers from Saria to Santiago, which is the minimum that you need to walk to actually get that certificate in June last year.
And if I may ask, what inspired you in your own way to do these walks?
I think for me it was always on my bucket list. And I decided that before I retire and while I still have sufficient funds, I need to do this. It was also a dream of mine to spend some quality time with my partner. And so when I reached the age of 60, I decided I would celebrate my 60th, and that was one of my birthday presents to myself.
For me it was, I've always enjoyed walking. So I enjoy walking, being in nature. And then actually just 2 weeks before we're supposed to go, I didn't know I was going. My friend needed someone to go with her. So I said, yeah, sure, I'll do it. So, but it's always been something that I wanted to do. It was on my bucket list anyway. So I just saw the opportunity and took it. And what an experience.
So in 2015, I was turning 50. And I was very, very unfit. And I'd heard of the walk many years before. I knew somebody who had done it. And I admired that person immensely, thinking this was an impossible task. And in the years prior to that, I'd been through quite some traumatic events. So I decided to put all of these things together and go and do this walk, which took us 32 days to walk the 800 kilometers. And to take that time out as a gift to myself and to really do the walk contemplatively, really, and just take the time to do some processing that was needed, and to also do it as a gift to my body, to recognize what my body had been through and the many traumas that it had been through. But I had to persuade some other people to come along on the trip with me because I'm not a person who likes to be alone. So when I mentioned Camino to them, they kind of looked at me, what on earth is the Camino? So I said, go and Google it, you'll find it there. And so I managed to persuade our best friends, another married couple, and my husband thought I'd lost the plot totally, but fortunately I managed to persuade him as well. So the four of us then set off on the journey. The 2023 one that we did last year, the same group of us went, and that was actually to celebrate my husband had a kidney transplant the year before. So we decided to take his new kidney for a walk, and that's why we did last year's one.
And can you tell me some highlights of, like, if you had to think, what was one or two things that really stood out for you that was, I don't know, the most beautiful scenery or something funny that had happened? What stood out for you on those trips of yours?
There are two that stood out for me, and that was the camaraderie of all the people walking on the Camino. It didn't matter whether you were from Africa, whether you were from Europe or from Asia. It didn't matter what your religion. It didn't matter what your gender. Everybody was there on a mission, and it was the amazing camaraderie and bon camino, and off you went. And then I think for me the highlight was actually walking into Santiago. I still get goose flesh. I had my brother and his family with us, and my little niece put on some real Chariots of Fire music, and in we marched. And it was absolutely amazing, because when you enter Santiago, you still have to walk another 3 to 4 kilometers before you actually get to the cathedral. And we were literally playing Wally. Where is the cathedral? We couldn't find the cathedral. And every time the signage said another kilometer, another kilometer. So when we actually got there, it was goosebumps.
And I want to add on to what Cindy is saying as well. Meeting friends along the way was definitely a highlight. It's people that I still have contact with now from different countries. It was just amazing. And then also the scenery, walking through those forests on the cobblestone roads and just taking it all in, nature, and just being in your own thoughts and just taking in what you are experiencing at that moment. It was just amazing.
Yeah, likewise, the camaraderie and the people that you meet are just so interesting, and it's just such a safe place to go. As a woman, you can walk totally alone and you are 100% safe. You meet people, you might walk a kilometer or two with them, you might walk a whole day with them, and the next day you part ways again and you meet different people. It's a most out of this world kind of an experience, and I think particularly for us as South Africans, that feeling of safety that you have. When you arrive, and because you only walk 4 or 5 kilometers at a time, and you stop for breakfast and you stop for tea and you stop for lunch, so it's not long stretches of road that you're walking at one go, and you stop and you just all fellowship around a table together and have breakfast together or have lunch together, and the whole country is just geared towards the pilgrims, as you called, while you are journeying. It's fantastic. Those forests, as you say as well, they're almost like sacred places, really. They've stood for hundreds of years, and only the pilgrims walk through those forests, and with the water and that silence, it's just absolutely amazing. One very funny story that you asked, an incident that happened to me. You've got to understand, I'm a person who has a big private bubble, and the Europeans clearly have very different bubbles to us. And the one place that we stayed in had unisex bathrooms, and I went into the shower cubicle and discovered that there were males, European males, busy walking around naked outside of my little shower cubicle. And I stood inside there for about 15 minutes trying to work out how I was going to eject from my shower cubicle to outside the bathrooms without having to walk past all of these naked males. It was very funny. And if we look back now, those are the funny moments that we remember whenever we get together and we sit and talk about our time on the Camino. There are many stories, and it's just such a lovely time. It really is. It's fantastic.
And tell me, from the very shorter walks, the short notice walks, the very planned walks, what are things that you had to plan for, that you had to prep, that you had to do in order to go do these walks?
So I think for me, I had the two extreme experiences. My first one was very clearly planned, and I was walking 3 times a week for a full year before we left. The most important thing, obviously, is that your feet are ready. So that one was very carefully prepared. As far as equipment, you need nearly nothing. You really don't need, so it's not expensive. The second walk that I did, I was so busy that I didn't have time to prepare at all. I'd literally walked 4 times in the 6 months prior to going because I just didn't have time to prepare. But that's why I say you don't need to be immensely fit. As long as you can walk 5 kilometers, you can actually go and walk the Camino. So we used all our equipment on this one that we had used on our last one. We pulled out our old t-shirts, our old tracksuit pants. All you need is a good pair of tackies. That's literally all you need.
Okay.
And off you go.
And And I want to agree with Sally by saying I should have practiced more. I should have prepared a bit more in advance. For me, carrying my backpack was something, the backpack was 10 kgs. Was a bit heavy. I only got used to it about after day 3. So day 1 to 3 was really tough. And by that time, even though I had blister-free socks and did everything that I could learn in 2 weeks before prepping for this that I had to do and take with me, I would say, yeah, definitely some more preparation is needed. And I would like to talk to Sally before I go again, in any case, just to get some more tips. But yeah, and I think you need to decide beforehand, do you want to take your backpack with? Do you want to carry it, or do you want it to be transported? Because that's going to also influence how you're going to prepare for this. So that would be my advice.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with that, Leonore. So I did it the lazy way. I had a agency who organized everything for us, and our baggage or luggage went into a van every morning, and we collected it at our hotel by the time we completed. So it was very easy for us. I mean, I think what I was over-prepared for is I took too many outfits to walk in, and I took too many shoes to walk in. And whereas I could actually just have rinsed out the T-shirt of the night before and just worn it over and over again. And I actually only used one pair of shoes. I never swapped into my second pair of shoes because I just felt comfortable in those shoes. So I was a little bit over prepared, I must say.
And for those of us that want to get into walking, I'm not necessarily at Camino level quite yet. What would you recommend I start doing to get into potentially doing a Camino? Like walking every day, getting, I don't know. What advice do you have for new walkers?
What I did was, for the first one, I just joined Run Walk for Life, which I know all Kira employees can do for free. And they were fantastic in assisting me in learning what is a good walking style, a good walking speed. And literally, honestly, if you can walk 5 kilometers, you can do it. Obviously, I used to on weekends try and walk a little bit further, just to make sure you've got the stamina to be able to continue walking. But that's honestly all that's really, really needed. And as far as going on the Camino, yes, you can go through an organized tour, but that's not necessary. With neither of ours was it an organized tour. You literally just arrive in the place and you can start walking. We bumped into a South African couple while we were on the first one, and every year for 4 years they were going back and walking a 250 kilometer stretch because they couldn't get the long leave. So you find people doing all different sections of it in different years, which is also great. It's fantastic. And the thing is, it's your journey, so you do it at your pace, and for how long you want to, how short you want to. They always say you must make sure that you walk at your pace, because then you don't run the risk of injuring yourself. Some people run the Camino, believe it or not. They run the 20-25 kilometers every day. There are people that do it on bicycles. There are people that do it on horseback.
Oh, wow.
But it's your Camino. I also, the first Camino I did literally 1 week before leaving, I broke my toe very, very badly, which was really not wise. I wouldn't recommend that. We had to transport my backpack, but there are companies that also do that. So although we stayed in the government accommodation, which is very basic, made it a lot cheaper as well, but it was fantastic because it's geared for the pilgrims. So even the government accommodation was dirt cheap, but it was fantastic. And you can transport your backpacks every day doing that, which made the journey a lot more enjoyable because you weren't walking with 10 kilos on your back. I admire you tremendously for doing that. But it just took that burden off, and you could literally watch and smell the flowers a lot more comfortably. I wouldn't have managed.
Yeah, I agree with Sally. You decide the pace that you want to walk. I mean, our longest day was 28 kilometers. It was a long day. It was a hard day. But if you want to take 5, 6, 7, 8 hours to do that, nobody's chasing you as long as you complete it. And it just depends on how you're feeling that day as well and how your feet are feeling. So it's not a hard
Okay.
walk at all, as long as your feet are ready.
And yeah, just to add on, the best for me was when you arrive at those albergues, that's what you're referring
Yes.
to as well, the hostels, and you eat together with the friends that you met during your day. And you mentioned it earlier as well. You might walk 1 kilometer with some people, and then you stop a bit longer and they carry on, and then you meet new people as you go along. And at the end of the day, everyone meet again at the albergue, and you have your pilgrim's meal at the end of the day, and that communion that goes on with that is just incredible.
Okay, so practice with your shoes. Make sure you know how to walk, and maybe if you're carrying a 10K backpack, practice with it before going.
Yes.
Definitely, definitely.
Okay, great. So tell me, what is next on your bucket list? When are you walking your next walk, and what is it?
Well, so I don't have anything planned yet. However, on my bucket list, I would like to do the whale trail that goes through the Whoop Nature Reserve. So I would say that would be my next one that I'm going to start planning.
So I would like to go and do, there's a walk that goes around the whole of Scotland. I'm very keen to do that because I've never been there, and apparently it's very, very beautiful. So I would like to see that. You've got to obviously time it in the year quite carefully. And then my husband is very keen on taking me back to do the first 200 Ks of the Camino Francais, because I was a little bit blinded by pain at that stage with my foot. So I don't remember that much detail of it. So, but it was also an extremely beautiful part, because in the first day you cross the Pyrenean Mountains, and it was snowing when we were there, which was probably a really good thing, because it kept my foot quite numb. But I would like to see that part again. It was very beautiful. The mist hanging below the mountain that you're walking above was exceptionally beautiful. And it's also very, very rural, that first part. And you literally pass through a number of villages where the village consists of 5 or 6 houses. That's all. So you're extremely privileged to be there, and you're aware of that. Those people up there speak absolutely no English. So you do sign language. I mean, they come and ask you whether you want this for supper or this for supper is literally your fish or chicken for your pilgrim's meal. And although they have people coming from around the world, they have absolutely no English. And I mean, your ladies, I mean, it fascinated us because it's just farming country. And your ladies are the farmers, and you literally see them walking with the milk in the pails from the cows in the field that they've hand milked still. And it's kind of that hand-to-mouth existence almost. But it's beautiful because it's just... And you walk through all those farms. So you literally walk past where the cows have been milked, and you go through their farmlands. So it's a privilege. It's an enormous privilege.
Joe, I don't have any plans, but I will definitely do another Camino. Definitely.
What did you learn about yourself, about life in general, about maybe your shoes that you took? What did you learn on this journey of yours?
I think you learn about yourself. You learn that you can persevere and complete something, and even though it's tough and it's hard and your feet are sore, and at one point I had more blisters than feet left, and and I mean, but in the end you finish, and when you get to that cathedral you feel that you successfully completed this, and you can tick it off your bucket list, and yeah, you just learn about yourself.
Yeah, the first one I learned exactly that lesson, that I could overcome. I think was the big lesson that I learned. The challenges and the trauma and that I'd been through, I learned that I could overcome anything if I set my mind to it. I, as a very unfit person who had been through health challenges as well, couldn't ever have dreamed that I could walk 800 kilometers. And that same thing, when I got into the square that's in front of the cathedral in Santiago, and I remember distinctly walking up to the cathedral. I don't know why I did it, because I'm not a very sentimental person. I walked up to the physical building, and I touched the wall of the cathedral, and the bagpipes were playing as we came through the archway there. And I touched the wall of the cathedral and I just broke. I just absolutely broke. And I think it was that sense of overcoming and realizing, if I dug deep, what was actually inside me. And the strange thing is, when I came back and I got back into my office, I was at Curradimville then, and my office had absolutely no windows, the little office that I sat in there. So I went from one extreme within 24 hours to sitting in an office with no windows, no nature, no nothing. But little did I know that in the next 5 years, I was going to have to overcome even greater things, and suffered huge loss and everything. But I knew that I had it in me to be able to cope with that. And I did it, and I'm strong. And we faced the transplant and that whole journey. But I always knew that I could do it. I never doubted for a moment that I could do it, and I had it in me, and that feeling that you've got this, and knowing, and that came from having been tested, and having proved myself. So yeah, it's just you've got it in you. Yeah, it was a tremendous lesson that I learned.
Yeah. And I think that's something we can all learn. Life will throw things at you, but if you keep pushing and you keep going, you are stronger than you think you are.
That thing of climbing into bed at night, I remember after the first day on the Camino, I literally got to the place that you stay, and I couldn't walk. I was in so much pain. I had to get from here to there. And it was literally, I was like lifting one leg and then lifting the next leg. And I thought, I'm not going to make it to my bed. There's no ways I'm going to get to my bed. And I climbed into the bed that night and I thought, oh my goodness, I'm going to have to catch a bus or a taxi or something to about 5 days ahead when I might be able to join them again. And I got up the next morning and my body was 100% fine. And you realize the healing power of sleep.
Yes.
I was absolutely fine. And realizing that if you just get up the next morning and you keep on going, and that happened for 32 consecutive days, you can get up the next morning, you pack up your bag and you keep on moving. And that's a life lesson. But if you just choose to not get up, then the world stops. But if you pack up, get up and get going, that's when it happens. Yeah.
Well done, Sally.
Yeah. Gosh.
Well done.
So for me, I besides what you experienced, I definitely experienced that as well. But for me, I've always been an A-type personality, and I've always found it really difficult to be in the moment. And I always have this little voice talking to me and stressing about matters that I don't have control of. And on this walk, it really, really taught me, or gave me the opportunity to be in the moment. As you say, walking, I'll never forget the one day we walked through this farmer's yard, and he was busy herding his cattle. And we were amongst the cattle and the dogs and the geese and the cats and the manure. I actually stepped in manure. And it's just being able to be in that moment. And that has really taught me that we need to focus when we're in the moment, be in that moment, and try and forget about what's happening around the outside and things that you cannot control.
Thank you so much for being with us today. I really appreciate you giving us some of your time and sharing your insights with us. So I think the lesson that I've learned about walking in general in life, things will get difficult. Rest when you need to, but always get up and make sure you carry on, and don't forget to try and absorb as much as you can of every moment.